1. November, Sholmes Suite. Und guck mal, da liegt die Maske von Kazuma da auf dem Tisch. Ue. What was that? A man screaming in the most unflattering way. Do you think... Could it have been Mr. Sholmes? Oh my, I do hope not. Wait, I don't do it anymore. Mon ami. Wer ist das denn? Stop this disgraceful display, Who are these people? Look at their hair, it's bright red. I think they must be clients of Mr. Sholmes. Gina! White, you two, you're coming with me now, down to the clink. No, not in prison. It is dark and damp and I don't like it. Buff, it's the darkness, it is my friend. I am not scared. But you're always scared of the dark. Shut your mouth, you idiot. I will sit quietly in the dark and plan our next day in heist. I don't like this. I don't like it. Well, tough. We'll finish this down the yard. Now get moving. Bye then, Ginny. Have fun. Oh yeah, thanks Iris. And thanks, you're a great detective. Was war da los? Gina makes a fine detective herself, doesn't she? Oh, Susie, and Reno. Hello, Iris. We are home. Well, did you find your daddy? Yes, we arrived at the hotel just before he and his friend. Oh, well, that's great news. I hope I get to see my daddy again soon. Können wir es ihr nicht mal langsam sagen, dass ihr Daddy im ersten Fall vom ersten Spiel gestorben ist? Yes, of course. Dr. John H. Wilson. So Iris, all that remains now is that greatest of problems known to man. But before we concern ourselves with that, I believe some tea is in order, don't you, my dear fellows? Oh, look. Wedlock Sholmes wohl eher. Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo? Do I have a crump or such like on my face? Not so much on your face. As on your head, I'd say. Come along then, everyone. I've brewed a lovely special blend. Time for tea. Whatever is going on here today. In that case, let us sit and drink now. For I am in fact expecting a guest later today. Okay, dann conversen wir mal your two visitors. Mr. Sholmes, who were the two gentlemen that were here before? Oh, just a pair of petty criminals, nothing of significance. Of course, they have to make a living somehow. And when the mood takes me, I'm willing to turn a blind eye to all manner of infractions. When the mood takes you, all manner of infractions, was ist infraction? Infractions. Verstoß. Okay. Also alle Arten von Verstößen. But when such fellows set their sights on Mr. Herlock Sholmes, well, that's when the luck runs out. Oh my, you are the target of a crime, Mr. Sholmes. But I quickly devised a plan to entrap them and deliver them to our young detective Ellie. You should have asked Gregory to come too. We could have had an arresting tea party. I did send word, but no answer was forthcoming. The man is consummately in the wrong place at the wrong time. There's a word for it, I'm sure. Aha, I have it! A Bangler, that's the word. Was ist ein Bangler? Bangler. Stümper, okay. It's a good job he's not here to hear you say that. So those redheads had been up to no good. I wonder what the man did. The greatest problem. Was ist denn the greatest problem? What was it about the greatest of problems known to man that you mentioned before? Is it another fiendishly intricate case, Mr. Jones? How should I best explain it? Are you aware of the theory of evolution by natural selection, perchance? Well, I think I've heard talk of it somewhere, possibly. Ja, survival of the fittest, oder nicht? It's a revolutionary scientific theory that was newly proposed 40 years ago now. According to its author, Mr. Darwin, we humans were once of apes who lived in the treetops. Wait, what? We were apes? Indeed, and from the very moment those apes descended from the canopy to live as humans. It has been our lot to be at the mercy of the greatest problem known to man. Our lot? What is this great problem, Mr. Jones? Why? Is it not obvious, my dear madam? The problem of rent. Yup, die Miete. But did you not receive a rather large sum of money from Madame Tispace only the other day? Pshaw! A large sum! One potted herb for Iris and a new motor car for me later. And all of it has quite disappeared, I assure you. Honestly, Hurley, you know you squandered it. Yes, well anyway. Squander? Verschwenden. 2 days ago, I discovered the answer to man's greatest problem, for the coming month at least. And what was the answer? Why, there's a substantial clue before your very eyes. Don't tell me, let me see! Humans are sorry creatures, unable to see what is in front of their noses. Let me give you some assistance. Don't look, but observe me very closely. There's one particular feature about my person that has changed. You should notice it in the end, I think. In the end. It's been stabbing me in both eyes right from the very beginning of our conversation. I think we might need another clue before we uncover the full answer, Mr. Naruhodo. Thanks for the hint. I'll be tearing my hair out if this charade goes on much longer. The lie you told. Mr. Jones, isn't it about time you told us the truth? Just over a week ago you said to us... I will now tell you something of the first importance, my dear fellow. Great detectives are wont to lie. It will serve you well to remember that. That case about the SS Boya in January. Kazuma wasn't killed, and you knew he wasn't dead at the time. So what was really going on? The fellow was unconscious for a very long time. If he hadn't regained consciousness when he did, his life would have been in mortal peril. Of course, a side effect of the prolonged comatose state was amnesia, as you now know. If he hadn't the fellow was unconscious for a very long time. When he did, his life would have been okay. It was a simple enough task to silence the crew. But how? After they'd carried them out of the cabin, I assembled them in the lobby area. Then I made them swear to leave him unconscious and have him unlaid from the ship in Hong Kong as a murdered corpse. Oh, how horrible. It was necessary to find material with which to persuade the crewmen to keep their word, of course. But why? Why do it in the first place? I will be at liberty to elaborate in due course. But for the time being, I would like to reassure you. I didn't foresee subsequent events. What events? His disappearance in Hong Kong. Oh! I believe I may have made a gross error of judgment. Mr. Sholmes. Okay. Okay. Also war er auch dafür verantwortlich, dass er in London über Bord gegangen ist, der liebe Kazuma. In London, nicht in Hongkong. Okay. Was haben wir hier? This looks like last week's edition. What's that article circled in red ink here? It's an advertisement column. It says the red-headed leak to the red-headed leak. The red-headed leak. What's that? I don't know. I've never heard of it before, but it's something on my face. Clearly it has something to do with that. Lively hair. The red-headed leak article has been entered into the court record. An advertisement from the newspaper that's entitled "To the Red-Headed Leak." It seems somewhat suspicious in nature. Gucken wir uns das mal an. To the red-headed leak. On account of the bequest of the late Ezekiah Hopkins of Lebanon, PA, USA, there's now another vacancy open, which entitles a member of the league to a salary of £4 a week for purely nominal services. All red-headed men who are sound in body and mind and above the age of 21 years are eligible. Apply in person on the morning of the 31st at the large park on Lime Street. Get £4 per week if you're a redhead. A most fantastic money-making opportunity. Bequest? Was ist denn Bequest? Bequest. Ah, Erbe? Oh, there's now another vacancy. And vacancy is Stellenangebot. Ah, okay. For purely nominal. Was ist denn nominal? Einfach nominal? Zahlentechnisch? Symbolisch. Ah, okay. Symbolische Service. Alle rothaarigen Leute müssen, die klar bei Verstand sind und über dem Alter von 21 sind, ja, können sich bewerben. Okay. Public Health Report. Despite the condition of the city of London itself of late, it has been a positive year so far in public health. There have been fewer cases of consumption reported when compared to this time last year, and smallpox is at an all-time low thanks to the vaccinations offered at the smallpox and fever hospitals throughout the various parts of London. Doctors, however, warn that there appears to be the beginning of yet another cholera epidemic on the horizon. Although the cause of such outbreaks remains unclear, the public is strongly advised to drink only water which has previously been boiled. Okay. Retrospect continued from page 1. Truly, more than any other nation, Britain has been successful in its endeavors, thanks in part to the generosity of its many investors, and its long illustrious tradition of fostering inquiries into the sciences. Lest it be forgotten, she is the nation that gave to the world the genius of Sir Isaac Newton. However, there's one other factor at work, the shifting field of economic thought. Despite the fact that Adam Smith's magnum opus, The Wealth of Nations, was published in 1776, the doctrine of laissez-faire has only begun to truly take root in the last In the last few decades, it remains to be seen just how influential and enduring his ideas will prove to be. Okay. The latest research finding a leading professor that runs from the Teaching Hospital of London. St. Bartholomew's Hospital. Okay. There's an emerging consensus among doctors and scientists of all nations whereby the theory of miasma is being soundly rejected as experiment after experiment has yielded conclusive evidence in support of what physician Jon Snow Game of Thrones had concluded many years prior that there is a strong correlation between contaminated water and the prevalence of certain diseases. In fact, the latest news to arrive from the continent is consistent with our own research into the so-called germ theory, by which minuscule microorganisms are the actual causes of a great many illnesses. The medical community has already begun in earnest to identify and categorize the tiny creatures as microscopes, also continue to improve through the dedicated work of London's instrument makers. We expect that in the coming years, improved instrumentation will allow us to see the germs with further clarity and in greater detail as never before. Ja, das wird tatsächlich so sein. Interessant. Das muss man sich ja auch erstmal ausdenken, ne? Solche Texte. I do like this fireplace. It's one of the best things I've seen since we arrived in the country, in fact. Although I do yearn for a Japanese kotatsu. Putting your legs on a warm blanketed table is so comforting. Do be careful, Mr. Naruhodo. Don't mistakenly put your feet into the fire, will you? You'd suffer terrible burns, you know? I worry sometimes about how Susato-san sees me. Okay, dann haben wir hier noch die Maske von Kazuma. The mask Kazuma wore when he was assigned to Lord von Siegfried as apprentice. When he cast it aside after the trial the other day, I just sort of picked it up. We ought to give it back to him, I suppose. But he has his memory back now, doesn't he? And I can't help feeling he might turn around and tell me coldly to wear it myself. But isn't he your best friend? True. Okay. Hier ist noch die Violine von Herlock. This is Mr. Sholmes' famous violin. The one he found being sold for a song at the pawnbrokery. What's it called again? A shoddy something. Oh yes, this wonderful instrument features in the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. It's a world famous Stradivarius. What? Stradivarius, Mr. Naruhodo. Stradivor. Are you even trying now? We'll come back to this another time, I think. Oh man. Was ist das hier? There's all sorts on these shelves. Chemistry apparatus, books, papers, and lots of things I've never seen before. It's all heaped up so high, I can't help feeling that the whole lot is going to topple at any moment. It looks as though it might topple, and yet it doesn't. The epitome of Mr. Sholmes' brilliance. I don't get it. As it happens, I'm quite well practiced when it comes to stacking shelves myself. Just the other day, the shelf in my office finally gave way under the strain though. It looks as though it might topple, and it does. Yes, the epitome of your disarray. I really don't get it. Okay. So, was ist das hier? I finally managed to remember this behemoth's name. The Grain Analytoscope. I don't think it was here when I left for Japan, was it? Oh, is that right? Yes, because it was with a pawnbroker. Ah, of course. Wir erinnern uns. Oh, that's given me a wonderful idea. I could pawn everything that's on your desk. The office would be tidy at last. Don't even joke about it, Mr. Sato. You are joking. Aren't you? Oh Mann. Schön. Gucken wir uns nochmal hier die Schreibmaschine an. If I've remembered correctly, this large and imposing lump of iron is called the typewriter. To think that every single one of the adventures of Sherlock Holmes blossomed from this very machine. Ah, it's such a dreamy thought. I actually had a go on it the other day. The metal bars didn't move when you hit the keys, got all tangled up somehow, and that made Iris angry. Mr. Naruhodo, you're ruining my dreamy thoughts. Please don't do that again. No, I've made the Sato-san angry as well. Okay, haben wir noch irgendwas? Wir können ihm noch die Zeitung zeigen, denke ich. It looks as though someone's circling an advertisement in this paper, Mr. Holmes. To the Red-Headed League. Does it strike you in some way? I was thinking that just maybe it might be related to your bright red hair. So, at last you've learned to apply my methods, Mr. Naruhodo. Sorry? In the first instance, and quite indispensable, observation. Believe me, I could have seen that hair with my eyes shut. So then, allow me to regale you with the details of my latest exploits. Regale or boast? Regale is... Was genau? Regal. Nein, delektieren, ergötzen, erfreuen. Okay. The Red-Headed League. Was hat es sich damit aussieht? So what is the Red-Headed League, which seems to be the subject of the advertisement you've circled? You noticed it in the paper then? That, my dear fellow, was going to be the source of this month's rent payment. It was. How? According to the advertisement, the Red-Headed League is a distinguished institution of fellows of unspecified governance. In fact, the only condition for becoming a member is having red hair. That doesn't entirely surprise me. But listen to what the lucky redheads receive once they join. An unconditional salary of £4 each week, okay. Oh my, £4 a week? But why? What are they paying people for? That I don't know. No details are given in the advertisement. But surely every red-headed person in the country would be flocking to join in that case. You're right, Susie. There's no time to lose. I put in my application at once. So will I, just on the off chance. That might be stretching a point, I think. The trouble is, they have a fixed number of members, you see? Oh, I see. So once a certain number of people have joined, no one else can. But as luck would have it, one member recently passed away. It wasn't particularly lucky for the red-headed in question, I feel, Mr. Holmes. So you decided to try to join in his place. Correct. I mean, look at me. Have you ever seen such a red-headed fellow? No. So why? Why did it have to go so wrong? What on earth happened? A blunder, Mr. Naruhodo, though it pains me to admit it. Your blunder, Ausrutscher? What did you actually do to your hair, Mr. Holmes? I'm glad you asked, Mr. Sato. What you see atop my head is neither dyed nor a hairpiece. I changed the color of my hair overnight. By the wonders of chemistry. Chemistry? I was conducting some research into a method of rejuvenating spent tea leaves. And in the course of my work, I stumbled upon a potion that when taken, turns one's hair aflame like red. Would you like to try it? It will make every hair on your body perfectly crimson. I think I'll pass. But Mr. Holmes, is it quite safe to drink? Surely it's bad for you, isn't it? Ah, amateurs are always hampered by such fears. Oh, I should never have doubted you, Mr. Sholmes. You mean to say... Okay. But of course. To earn £4 per week, one must be prepared to turn a blind eye to a little danger. That degree of wet sickness, more than just a little danger, surely. So anyway, Hurley left full of confidence yesterday with his new wet hair. For the park on Lime Street, where the Red-Headed League were interviewing prospective new members. So what went wrong? What went wrong? The whole park was choked with red-headed folk, like a cold-dust orange barrel. I queued for 8 hours solid before at last I reached the front. But when the panel of interviewers saw me, they immediately said, "Ah, Mr. Sherlock Sholmes, are you in disguise to conduct an investigation?" So naturally, I had no choice but to reply, "Shh, don't give me away." After which, I could do little else but turn and leave. See then this morning, when I looked in the mirror, irritation stirred within me. So I turned that pair into the police. Oh dear, what a disaster. For Hurley and those two redheads. Okay. Kann man nichts machen, ne? Mr. Sholmes, you mentioned before that you were expecting a guest today. Indeed, Mr. Sato, that is correct. Not another of those red-haired gentlemen that were here before. Not at all, they were pretty villains. The guest I am expecting is a client. Oh, a young gentlewoman who wishes to appoint the services of this great detective, no less. Oh, how wonderful, Mr. Sholmes. You must stay and observe the fashion in which a great detective receives his customers. Must we? I have you in my clutches now. When? Doesn't I have you in my clutches, redheads? That hearty laugh is masking rather sinister thoughts, I feel. You know, the lady isn't due for another hour yet. Don't feel as though you must wait around if you have other things to do. Okay, dann gehen wir erstmal, würde ich sagen. Und ich würde sagen, haben wir bei uns was zu tun? Wahrscheinlich nicht, oder? 1. November, Naruhodos Legal Consultancy. Nein, haben wir nicht. Wir hören uns aber nochmal das Spaten-Argument an. Oder die Schaufel oder Spaten. Das ist die Frage. The spade is still here. Look. Please, Mr. Naruhodo. It's not a spade, as I think you well know. It's a shovel. It didn't take long to reignite that old argument. Ah, I have an idea. Let's give the implement a name, like Professor Hairbrain named his tools. Oh, I never thought of doing that. From now on then, let's call it Rionosuke. No, it's clearly much more of a Susato. The old argument has taken a new and unexpected turn, it seems. Susato oder Rionosuke. Oh Mann. Okay, aber ich würde sagen, dann gehen wir mal zu der Lord Chief Justice's Office und erkundigen uns nach Kazuma.